Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Succeed Without Selling Salon. Today, we are talking about cold calling. Now, this is something that, man, you either love it or you hate it. I don't think very many people are somewhere in between. And I think most people hate it. Well, let's talk about that. Because the truth is, at some point, you're going to have to do some sort of cold outreach, and it doesn't have to be horrible. So, what would that even look like? Well, you have choices. You can pick up the phone and call and try and get a hold of the person who you should be talking to. You can send an introductory letter where you set the stage for when you're going to call. You can take cold and make it a little warmer by seeing if you can get an introduction to the person, and that is really ideal. You still have to do all the work. You still have to go through the discovery. You still have to do all of those things, but it is a little easier. So let's back up to calling or sending an introductory letter. You may notice that I did not say that you can email them because, quite frankly, I don't think email is a very good cold calling process. I think it sends the wrong message. I think it's too easy for the person to disregard. I think they may never even get your email because with spam filters the way they are these days, they can be pretty tight. And people don't have a tendency to open emails from people they don't know. Now, there's email marketing, which I still think you shouldn't send to people who haven't opted on. And then there's email prospecting. Email marketing, I'm all about. I think it's great. Email prospecting, not so much. Okay. Likewise, going onto LinkedIn or Facebook for that matter and requesting to connect with someone is fine as long as you give them a reason why. It does not give you license to then pitch them right away. And this is what too many people are doing. They're going onto LinkedIn, they're finding their target, they're asking to request with them on LinkedIn, and then they're instantly pitching them their product or service. And the problem is there's no investment. People don't know you, they don't trust you, you're assuming they need what you have to sell, and that doesn't work. It doesn't work with any sort of cold calling. So let's back up a smidge and think about if you're cold calling, what is your goal? Like, what are you trying to achieve? I will tell you the answer is not a sale. Okay, so let's let that go. The answer is a meeting, a conversation. Because until you have that conversation, until you're doing that discovery, you don't know whether that person or company is a good opportunity for you. The other reason is I think most of us feel uncomfortable selling. And part of the reason we don't like to cold call is because we think that if we cold call for the sale, that it's awkward, it's uncomfortable. Well, of course it is, because you're asking a total stranger to give you money when they don't know you yet. So what if the cold calling was just for a conversation, just to meet someone, just to get to know them, just to find out what's actually going on with them? Would it feel different? Would it be a different process? I say that yes, I think it would. So let's talk about process. You have your target market. You choose what that target market is. Choose one for starters. And then you make a list of everybody who's in that target. Okay. Now, I'm going to separate business to consumer from business to business for this part. We're going to talk about business to business. So you're going to make a list of the companies that are in that target. And then the next step, in my opinion, is to research them. Google them, look at the company on LinkedIn, see if they're in the news, see what's going on with them. Try and learn as much as you possibly can about that company, as well as who you should be reaching out to. And the reason is this: when you know about them and you have an idea of what's going on with them, you have something to talk to them about. You can start a conversation around whatever is going on with them. And that's what's great, because you are showing that you have paid attention, that you've done your research, that you know who they are, that you know what's going on, and you're showing genuine interest. And you have to, your interest has to be genuine. And remember, you're just hoping to get a conversation later. For right now, you just want to start that engagement, that conversation. When we have something we can talk to somebody about, it makes it a lot easier. So you do your research. You find out as much as you can about them. You may find at the time that you're doing your research that right now they're just really not a prospect. That's okay. That's why you have a CRM, so you can keep track of all this information so that later you can swing back to having the conversation with them at a later date. Okay? So you seek the conversation. You start out talking about whatever it is that's going on with them. There's the connectivity. You can even start a conversation with, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just wondering if you'd be open to a conversation so I can learn more about X, Y, and Z that's going on in your business. And if there's a way I can help you by connecting you to a resource or, whatever it looks like. Promise I won't try and sell you anything. That takes the pressure off of everybody, and they'll give you an honest answer. Okay? Now, one of the things we have to remember about cold calling is we're probably going to call an awful lot of people before we get anybody live. So what we do with our message and what we do with our follow-up is going to be really important. The message needs to say something like, just reaching out, wondering if we could schedule a time to chat, not trying to sell you anything. I was just really curious about this that's going on in your business. Would love to learn more about it and provide you with resources, if that makes sense. Then you should say, I'm going to shoot you an email with this same information in it in the event that's easier for you as a means of communication. Feel free to reach out to me at da-da-da-da. But don't worry, because I'll reach out to you in a couple of days if I haven't heard back. You never want to put it on them to reach out to you. You can offer it to them. They can, but it's not their responsibility. It's yours. So send the email and say, this is a follow-up to the message that I just left you. Da-da-da. It's got to be the same languaging, the same message, the same agenda. Same sort of thing. I'll give you a call in a couple of days, see if we can schedule a time to chat. Okay? Now let's shift to business to consumer, because business to consumer is pretty much impossible to cold call. And if you've gotten those calls at your house during dinner or when you're watching a movie or at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, you know how bad that is. So you don't want to be the person doing that to other people, right? So it gets a little more difficult with business to consumer because you got to get in front of people, but it's hard to do. You can do all the research in the world, but individuals, it's hard to find that information. You can maybe find it on Facebook, but you still can't just necessarily reach out to people cold. They don't like it, you don't like it, not necessarily a great idea. So you have to ask yourself the question, okay, how can I get in front of my audience? Offer something. Offer something that's educational with no other agenda. And I mean this sincerely. You have to honestly not have any other agenda than to provide information to people when it's business to consumer and get to know a business when it's business to business. Yes, eventually you are trying to figure out whether there is an opportunity for you to do business with them. That's a discovery mission. That's not in the moment. Okay, that takes time, it takes questions, it takes a certain different level of attention. So for starters, you are just trying to, with business to business, get the meeting. With business to consumer, share information with people so that they can select what they're interested in learning more about, what they're interested in exploring. They have to learn to trust you. And the way they're going to learn to trust you is when you're really educating them, sharing information with them. It's easier for you. There's no pressure. It's easier for them. What happens is you build a really great community around your business, and the people who really are interested in what you have to sell will continue to have that conversation with you. You won't have to push. You won't have to convince. You won't have to do any of those things you don't want to do. You can just go ahead and have those conversations, and then together you gauge who wants to have further conversations. Okay? The last thing I'm going to talk about is that introductory letter. Some people find it very uncomfortable to just pick up the phone and call strangers. And I get it. I felt that way when I did sales. So they send a intro letter. It's very short. It maybe asks a couple of questions at the beginning to get the person who's reading it to say yes to themselves, followed up by, if you've said yes to any or all of these questions, maybe we should talk. At ABC Company, we specialize in da 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 da, very short, one sentence. I will call to, I'll call in a couple of days to follow up and schedule a time when we can have a conversation. Feel free to reach out to me in the meantime. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Sincerely, da da da. Now, I didn't say in that letter, listen, if this makes sense to you, call me, because no one's going to do that. Okay? What I said was, I will reach out to you to follow up. And the great thing about doing that in the letter is that now you're more comfortable following up. Now, when you call and the gatekeeper answers the phone and says, are they expecting your call? You can say, well, yeah, they're expecting my call. I'm calling to follow up on some information I sent them, because you said in the letter that's what you were going to do. You're more likely to get the person to answer the phone, or at least get patched through to their voicemail where you can leave them a message. Okay, so a lot of people find that a lot more comfortable. I found it to be a very successful way of talking to people and getting them on the phone to get that meeting. And remember, you're seeking the meeting, not the sale. So, what did we talk about today? Cold calling, picking up the phone, sending an introductory letter, not emailing, right? Seeing if you can find warm introductions. That's great. It's not cold, warm. It's a little bit different. We talked about the difference between business to business and business to consumer. and the behaviors that go with those. And got a little bit into process of, okay, here's a process you can go through if indeed you are going to cold call. We are in a situation right now with the pandemic where people are not sure how they should reach out to people or if they should. And what I'm going to tell you is go ahead, just do it compassionately, do it with empathy. Be really curious about how they are. How are they doing? What is going on in their business and their world? How's it impacting their business? Some people are going to be happy to talk. And you don't want to get hung up on people who aren't communicating with you or not returning your call, because you know what? There's a million reasons why that could be happening, none of which have anything to do with you because they don't know you. So we have to be careful that we don't get stuck in this, oh, I can't get a hold of anybody. You're going to get a hold of the people who it makes sense to get a hold of, but not if you're trying to sell them. And that's the other thing we talked about, was what not to do on LinkedIn, right? Because it doesn't work. Cold calling is not about selling. It's not about walking away with a piece of business. It's about starting a conversation, getting a meeting, whatever that looks like. In person, probably not so much right now, but a video meeting, a phone call, short, just to start a dialogue, just to start a conversation. Okay? So when you remember that, take some of the heat off, take some of the pressure off, and you can certainly do it. And you know what? If you have any more questions about cold calling or concerns, or you want to run through some scripting, reach out to me. Okay? You can get me through Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, on my website at hellbigenterprises.com. And there are more cold calling tips in Succeed Without Selling, which is available as a Kindle on Amazon right now. So go make it happen. Do something, because sales is an activity. It's something that you have to do. When you have a process and a system, you'll do it well. You'll do it consistently. And you will notice the accomplishments that you are having just by virtue of the fact that you are reaching out. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope to see you next week on another Succeed Without Selling Salon, where we will be talking about the client experience. Bye-bye for now.